Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Looks like we're getting trolled already. My goodness. Elon Musk has come out and said nuclear stupid or dumb. You can pick and choose. YouTube has a new format going on, so just bear with me. I'm having a problem. It's okay. So that's so funny. We got trolled already. My goodness. We got 28 votes at the beginning of the show. I don't know the last time I've seen that happen. We got 64% saying nuclear is not dumb. Durnford is dead. That's hilarious. We're going to start off with a song called Nuclear Belgium. And I'll be right back after this. I'm not quite ready here. My apologies.
100 hands, reverse the law. Phase 1 set, now put on pause. They claimed the grid could not endure and fed the myth of power pure. The fuel was buried, not the plan. It only waits for votes to stand. From all they stacked the vessels deep. Sea hands ran long though did not sleep. No chant was sung, no grave was raised. Just softer lights in western bays. A farmer passed through fields unclaimed. No one asked what was in name. Nuclear Belgium, hear the ground. Not a soul to turn it down. Nuclear Belgium, sold as clean. Ballots cast, the elites decree. Nuclear Belgium, built to last. But the river learns too fast. They wrote it down in 23, then turned the page before the plea. The pause they pitched became a door, a lease renewed without a floor. The mask was spun in policy, but no one asked the river's fee. Nuclear Belgium, hear the ground. Not a soul to turn it down. Nuclear Belgium, sold as clean. Ballots cast, the elites decree. Nuclear Belgium, built to last. But the river learns too fast. Now tell the child in Malta Day what steams beneath the concrete base. Dessel's drums and Toomey lie, and NATO carries what we weigh. The wind from Flanders bends its back. The scaffold stands, but none look back. Nuclear Belgium, hear the ground. Not a soul to turn it down. Nuclear Belgium, sold as clean. Ballots casted, elites decree. Nuclear Belgium, built to last. But the river learns too fast.
Voila. Ooh, that's interesting. We got the shit spammed out of us tonight. That's hilarious. Super dumb. It's so funny. Let's get after it here. Elon Musk. So they're coming up with all kinds of. He didn't just say solar power. He said nuclear was stupid. And so, because he has a solar company, then the nuclear industry is trying to leverage that, of course. It is pretty funny. It's a viral post there, right? They call the idea of building fusion reactors and small modular reactors just super dumb. And with somebody with that kind of influence, with a little blurb, that's all it takes, right? He doesn't have to elaborate on anything. You just got to come out and say it. It's super dumb. So solar power, he says, that not him, but the media is just fixated now on solar, and they're going to say, oh, you know, solar, the sun's not always shining. The same old song and dance, right? There's no other solution, only nuclear. But of course, there's many other solutions. And solar is not bad, trust me. There was 660 gigawatts came online last year in 12 months of solar worldwide. It's equal to 6,000 small modular reactors. Well, the time has finally come for geothermal energy. This is the New Yorker. The scumbags from New Yorker. So Iceland, of course, is geothermal and hydropower. But we now have like quasi-electric. We now have all kinds of options for drilling deep and drilling fast for geothermal. We can now surpass. But let's talk about it anyway. I'm having a bit of a hard time with my system here for some reason. Oh, here we go. I got 13 likes, and my poll has been absolutely good. So let me bring that up for you. It's madness. I'm usually more organized than this. I'm just not myself last little while. You know, in the last 15 years of doing this show, I've never seen that happen before I even started. So now we have 51% says yes. Way to go, good people out there. We got absolutely pounded in the first, before the show even got started. We got 14 likes on the video. We got 38 votes. So the nuclear industry came at us with a bunch of ghost accounts, apparently. Nuclear is super dumb. And so is my poll. My poll is pretty, I could have done a better job on my poll. Is nuclear super dumb like Elon Musk is saying? Is how it should have probably read, right? I put, is Elon Musk nuclear super dumb, right? Let's keep her going here. So, that's not where I'm supposed to be. Yeah, that's right. He argues humanity is ignoring the most powerful fusion reactor already available, the sun. And so the fusion industry is just, they're sucking up all your precious metals on the planet for something for the last 50, 60 years. They're working on a design from 1904, the same design. There's nothing innovative in nuclear power or nuclear fusion. They're working on very old designs and patents. They haven't come up with anything innovative. Their version of the small modular reactor is a 24-story building, a boiling water reactor X, the BWRX-300, which that's not a small modular reactor, which means, you know, because they're talking about building them all over the world. There's a whole bunch of countries, United Nations, Canada, United States, Poland, a bunch of European countries, all just came on board. I'm going to start building this skyscraper, this 24-story skyscraper. They're going to put half the building underground to try to make it look a bit smaller, but it's still a 12-story building above ground, 12-story below the ground. In other words, they don't have a design for fusion, and it's stupid be waiting for fusion to show up. Of course, you know, the saying is anything that fusion can do, geothermal can do it right away and do it better and do it for longer with no adverse side effects from the emissions. So Elon Musk came out and said the sun is an enormous free fusion reactor in the sky. It's super dumb to make tiny fusion reactors on Earth. Even if you burned 4 Jupiters, the sun would still account for nearly 100% of all power ever produced in the solar system. So like he's talking about the whole solar system, of course, which is brilliant reply for the industry. Stop wasting money on puny little reactors. So you can take that many different ways besides fusion, because the small modular reactors, everybody know, has been shoved down the entire planet's throat now for the last 5-6 years, perpetually, and they've been stealing everybody's investments and tricking people to investing in the small modular diffusion reactor companies, which of course is a Ponzi scheme, but they're getting away with it. Unless you openly admit there's just science experiments. No, they openly admit that, right? And so what they're doing this pump and dump scheme with small modular reactors and stocks, and fusion too. Now there's around 100 fusion companies started up. Some have gone out of business, of course, but not before they made a shitload of money on the backs of hardworking people's investments. And it's the same thing for the small modular reactors. Like the big baby a few years ago was the ultra small, ultra safe reactors, which of course none of these companies have a product, and they're on the stock market, and they're holding up the future of humanity. They hijacked our universities and our medias worldwide since the Manhattan Project, and now they've hijacked our future on a real bad way. Stop wasting money on puny little reactors. Well, we don't have, and they're wasting money. They're wasting people's hard-earned investments, and the people that are investing in the small modular reactors, the fusion reactors, are led to believe that they exist, or that they're going to be the cutting edge. You know, this is simply not true. They don't have the technology, and proof of it is just I done a video a few days ago. A BWRX 300 boiling water reactors small modular reactors, according to Hitachi, are 240-foot skyscrapers. They're 50 feet taller than Fukushima reactors. His blunt remarks telling governments and companies to quit investing in fusion projects unless they're labeled as experiments quickly gained a massive attention. Yeah, the nuclear industry is just belligerent, eh? Right, I wasn't paying attention to the poll till we went live, because putting this whole operation together every night is just, it's madness. Trust me, it's madness to get everything to work. Quickly gained massive attention. The pro-nuclear community, the degenerates, most of these people should be in jail for the rest of their lives. These are serial killers, sparking fresh discussions on the direction of global energy policies. Why are we wasting 2 nickels on fusion and small modular reactors when we don't have one? Why are country after country after country signing memorandums of understanding with United Nations moron brigade, the IAEA, the ERPA, the UNSCLEAR, the IPRC, their nuclear scum arm? Several users responded critically to Elon Musk's remarks on, not several, it's they're out there screeching. It's like a banana on a potato chip and walking in the sunshine and climbing mountains and flying on airplanes for 80 years straight. And they're still doing the same thing to try to beat Elon Musk. One pointed out that engineering prioritizes controllable, scalable energy sources. Engineering prioritizes controllable, scalable energy sources. Well, what about geothermal? It's avoiding geothermal like it's some kind of plague or something. Unlike solar, which relies on perfect conditions. Well, that's the furthest thing from the truth. Solar works on any day, cloudy days included. It's just not working at originally, right, because it wasn't very efficient. Now it's much more efficient, even on cloudy days. The new versions of solar are incredibly efficient. And you can direct, with reflectors, a lot of energy onto the solars, even in the worst climates, which relies on perfect conditions. It's simply not true. And it's you can store energy. I mean, 660 gigawatts, and then, so 2024, I'll actually get to it. 2024 was 300 plus, or 400 gigawatts of solar came online. 2023. 2024 was 660, it was over 1,000 gigawatts. And this year, 2025, is looking close to 900 plus gigawatts. That's almost 2,000 gigawatts in 3 years that came online of solar. And that's more than half of the entire planet's gigawatt usage a day, a minute. Like a, what's the word for it? Like your 24, your moment by moment capacity worldwide is 3,334 or something gigawatts. And people argue, it's 50 extra gigawatts a day, there's 50 less data, but it's in that neighborhood, right? We've produced over half of that in solar in 3 years. And I'll explain some of the storage coming up. I'll show you documentation of all my assertions. Another user argues that if the sunlight were a weapon, humanity would have harnessed solar power a century ago. I've heard that argument a long time ago. Noting that just 1/10,000th of the solar energy hitting Earth can meet all the global energy needs. We have the storage, but there's we should be looking at geothermal and solar as a storage system for peak power. But I'll explain it to you, actually, because I got coming up right away. A third commenter disagreed with Musk, outright stating that if we master fusion on Earth, it could provide near limitless clean energy, offering stable, grid-connected baseload power around the clock. Well, so could geothermal. We don't need nuclear. We don't need solar. We don't need wind. Geothermal can do it all. Geothermal could easily put gas, oil, coal, and nuclear out of business in 5 or 6 years. Solar is almost double the entire planet's capacity in just 3 years, like new solar. But because he has so much influence, just coming up with that little blurb has drove the industry worldwide insane and might very well have crippled the industry. Like, why would everybody should pull their money out of fusion small modular reactors, because there is no fusion, there's no small modular reactors. They tricked you and lied to you and deceived you, manipulated you and your loved ones and friends and families and good honest people into investing their hard-earned money, working their whole life in factories and everything else, and then they got tricked into investing it in solar or nuclear, small modular reactors and fusion, and they lose 20, 30, 40% of their investment. They're never going to get the money back, so they eventually pull their money out. But that's what it's all about doing, right? It's a 100% scam. And it's like fusion, if we master fusion, when it can provide near limitless clean energy around the clock, well, so can solar do that. All you got to do is pierce storage with it. I'll show you some of the storage options coming up. They're incredibly efficient. Any community could do their own independent if they wanted to. Independent of the weather. Well, nuclear, first off, has to close down each year. There's $100 million on maintenance a year spent at a nuclear power plant. And they take fuel out of the reactor core and put it into a so-called pool at the top of the building. We're still splitting atoms into the environment. And all of these sites are surrounded by farms. And so nuclear can't operate past 70 mile per hour winds. World's largest compressed air grid batteries will store up to 10 gigawatt hours. So this will supply power for 500,000 people for 8 hours. And you can buy windmills, like the windmills, that all they do is compress air. Now you can dig mine shafts in your community and just compress air down there with your own compressors. You can take excess wind and solar and store energy and compress your grid batteries. And this thing will load around 300 times a year. Global solar installations may hit 660 gigawatts in 2024. That was last year. 660 gigawatts, and it came close to that. And they're expecting a 40% annual growth on average. And this is despite, the Ukraine-Russian staged event now, which has driven up the prices of all commodities and caused the price of solar and wind and to accelerate very high because of the price of commodities all of a sudden, because the good old boys club from the World Economic Forum, right? Vladimir Putin, Justin Trudeau, Angela Merkel, for instance, were all young global leaders at the same time. So it's very easy to start drawing fingers and pointing towards a growth rate of 40% based on a global solar installation of 444 gigawatts in 2023. So, and by this year, they're expecting, which is around 1,000, close, 900 to 1,000 gigawatts of solar. Well, even if it's only like 800, for instance, it's still over half of the entire planet's capacity, current use, moment by moment. Geothermal energy could be cheaper to access thanks to a new drilling technology. So this story is really important. And now a lousy $4 million grant, not billions of dollars tossed at them every year, but a $4 million grant. So a company says, well, what can we do to make it efficient to get this industry up and running? He said, well, a drilling system where they use 25,000 pounds per square inch water jets to slice up the rocks as they're drilling ahead of the drill bit, and then pneumatic hammers to smash up the sliced up rocks, and then the drill bit comes right behind it. Currently, drills penetrate hard rock at a rate of 1 to 2 meters per hour. But researchers anticipate the new drilling technique will work at up to 10 meters, that's 30 feet per hour. 30 plus feet per hour, instead of, say, 6 feet per hour. It can reduce the cost by 65%. Well, it doesn't matter what it costs. The fact is that it's still going to be hundreds or thousands of times cheaper than nuclear. Nuclear is the most expensive, resource-intensive industry in human history, period. I don't know what I got going on here. Okay. Let's keep her going here. This is the first time researchers will combine high-pressure water jets, we're talking about 25,000 pounds per square inch, which will travel with the drill bit, ahead of the drill bit, is connected to the same mechanism. And then it also has a vacuum, which will suck up the pulverized rocks, and downhole fluid-driven hammers to tap into geothermal reserves. So 25,000-pound water jets will slice the rocks effortlessly, like butter, and then the fluid-driven pneumatic hammers will crush that, pulverize it, and because you got to realize 25,000 pounds per square inch creates a lot of heat, right? So literally, in many ways, they're melting the rocks at the same time as it's slicing it. And then that allows the pneumatic hammer to pulverize it to fine particulates that will come up to the normal drilling mechanism, but will also be vacuumed up, from what I understood. It's an incredible opportunity for humanity to fulfill an important part of our society by producing an energy, geothermal, which can be produced anywhere. So this technology allows you to drill deeper and yet still even faster and still more cheaper than the best drills we have on the planet currently. You know, they were talking about a $50 billion market for drill bits. Just we covered that like a year ago or 2 years ago for the emerging geothermal. The geothermal industry has been ostracized by all industries, but particularly the nuclear industry. This is the first time researchers will combine a high-pressure water jet, downhole fluid-driven hammers to tap into geothermal. I doubled that one. Combining high-pressure water jets and pneumatic hammers. Technology we use high-pressure jets, powerful enough. Well, at the bottom hole conditions to cut the rocks into particular profile shapes that precondition the rock to be more readily broken by an inbuilt pneumatic percussion, fluid-driven percussion hammers. I'm not expecting this show to be a long show tonight. Definitely off my game. And I was in the sauna. Like yesterday, I noticed I was sweating extra heavy in the sauna. And today, same thing in the sauna. I was in the sauna really early this morning. I wake up and I walk into the sauna, 150 degrees. That's how I wake up every morning. No water, no nothing. I just walk straight into the sauna. Well, I exercise while the sauna's warming up, but it's only for I usually do around 800 calisthenics, right? But I've been cheating the last week here where I'm only doing about half of that and then staying an extra 20 minutes in the sauna, extra 30 minutes. Just keep going. That was my boring shit. Priming the rocks for easier breakage. And I changed my diet, and my diet is, I'm just loving it. I'm just loving the fact that my life is a hell of a lot better since I started doing that. And the sauna, of course. World's largest compressed air grid battery will store 10 gigawatts. So to put out 500 megawatts and it can store 4 gigawatt hours of energy, which is compressed air will power 500,000 homes, 400,000 to 500,000 homes for 8 hours, if it had to. But it's only meant to meet peak power, which is, you know, people work is still transitioning. The next shift is coming on. The old shift is headed home. And when they get home, they're going to get showers. They're going to fire up all kinds of electrical stuff for the first hour or so, right? And then, you know, the energy will come back down again. So that peak power, and, you know, where everybody's turning their air conditionings on. And if every community can do its own geothermal, you don't have to wait. That's the beauty of this. And geothermal works out to, now it's down to about $3 million a megawatt. That's nothing, right? $3 million theoretically could power 1,000 homes. So if you built your own small-scale system for communities, uh, the community could invest in that and pay it off in just a couple of years. And the price of energy would come down to nominal. Grid scale storage is becoming even more crucial. So you can see, you can also not just compressed air is just brilliant. So extra wind or extra solar, you can use compressed air technology. You can build your own for your house. You just buy the welders' cascade tanks, the big, tall, skinny cascade tanks you see at the welders, and change out the valve on the top to 5,500 pounds per square inch. I used to do it for diving all the time when I was a commercial diver. Rather than the tanks you were doing an air hose, but rather than having the compressor always running upstairs, you would just fill up 6 or 7 or 8 even of these cascade tanks. And the trick was you went from a 3,000 pound per square inch, changed out the top piece to 55 pounds per 5,500 pounds, right? So you can store an awful lot of air. I'm sorry. And so then when I'm diving, the tanks are being replenished the whole time, right? So when I come up, instead of having to fill up all the tanks for the next 4 or 5 hours with the compressor, they're banging away. Everything's already done. And, well, you can dive 2 days off it, basically. In the shallow dives, anyway. World's largest compressed air grid batteries will store up to 10 gigawatts. So you can also use lava rocks. Iceland has lots of lava rocks. Many other countries, you can send down container ships and fill it up with lava rocks. And you can store at 3,000 degree Fahrenheit temperatures. You still need hydrogen, right? To power cars, to power motors, to power generators, to power, and the technology of hydrogen has come an incredibly long way. I mean, we're putting all kinds of energy into everything but geothermal. Because the minute geothermal, people start seeing how that works and you don't need anything else, that's when it's bye-bye nuclear industry, bye-bye gas, oil, and coal. For the most part, right? You still need it for all kinds of other applications. Dana Nasana, your host, your moderator there in the comments there's a little debate going on about we still need plastics. And hemp could make cars, for goodness sakes. It can replace steel, not just plastics. And all your ropes and all your sailboats and all your Navy boats back in the day before they made it illegal, all these sails on the boats were made of hemp because they last forever, right? Oh, excuse me. Let's come back over to the poll. That's pretty fun tonight. We got 19 likes, but we got 44 votes. We got 59 yeses. Woo, you folks came in. You folks came out to bat for me. Bless your hearts. But I'm really happy. I don't care. To see a previous pro-nuker turn anti-nuke is one of the greatest things ever for me. Especially someone with a big voice and a big reach. And the fact that we got pummeled on our poll right away originally, before the show started, we were like 28 votes or something when I went live. And 64% of it was no, nuclear's not done. So the nuclear industry is in just desperation mode to come in. You know, when they come and attack my show, my puny little show that has been ostracized from humanity for so long, it's true I'm not the best person in the world. It's true I'm a bastard. I'm not going to deny that. When it comes to the nuclear industry, I'm definitely, I definitely don't have any patience for people in the nuclear industry. They're just perpetual lawyers. And because they can't beat me in a conversation or a debate, then they just assassinate my character. And that's what they've done. They got me assassinated. And yet I keep showing up almost every day. I'll show up here for almost 15 years. But we've done 6 years of research expeditions on the Pacific Ocean too, right? So nuclear is super dumb. Is in more ways than people could possibly comprehend. Just bear with me here. So let me explain that for you. So I launched emergency research expeditions after Fukushima for 6 years. And the reason I lasted 6 years is because I'm pretty stubborn. And I'm fixated on facts. Because that ultimately what wins the argument. Don't try that at home. But this is what an average day really looked like. It was miserable. Me and poor Zoe. I sure missed that puppy, man. She had a heart attack, or she stroked out when we were out researching birds. She was 15 years old. I don't think there was a better place for her to pass. I gotta admit, it was rough on me. That was one of the roughest days of my life to see Zoe pass away. I still haven't got over it. So everything you're seeing here, I had to fake it because they're gone from nature. We have this is a blue whale. It should weigh 380,000 pounds. It should weigh 380,000 pounds. It maybe weighs, it should weigh 200 tons. It maybe weighs 10 tons, 12 tons. That's big. That's a stretch. That's just shocking, right? And the small modular reactors, don't forget, are skyscrapers. They're 24-story buildings. How are you going to put that on the back of a truck and take it somewhere? Japan's radioactive fallout, this was the French government radioactive fallout. I'm going to skip ahead to 20 days. That's 20 days of radioactive fallout of cesium-137 right there. And that was at 1 million to 10 million atoms, anthropogenic man-made atoms of cesium-137, which pulses energy 600 feet every second per cubic meter of air. That's the French government. So we launched these research expeditions, and here's what we've discovered. Just one more thing to add in there is that I showed you the cesium plume at 1 million, 10 million atoms. This is the plutonium. It's actually neptunium-239, but after 25 days, the whole thing is completely decayed to plutonium-239, which was named after the devil, right? There's actually a plutonium models. These are 20-day plume models. The food was banned in Japan by 55 countries for over a decade. So saying nuclear is dumb, super dumb, is an understatement. And that they picked up 30 million one-ton bags in just 3% of the farmlands, and that was the farmlands that they reopened. So we've done these research expeditions, and we discovered to our right, and this was from Vancouver, British Columbia to Alaska. It was a brutal experience. It went back 6 more years because the species to your left are exterminated. So these are mine pictures here. And the whole coastline was this incredible diversity. It was beautiful. Like I said in last night's show will explain this way. The last 2 shows, or going to my playlist, the last 2 shows will really explain how bad radioactive fallout was for our planet, for the species. It's an extinction event. So I went back for 5 more years to see if the species to your left recovered. I had to go back. I couldn't consciously not do it. So I spent 6 years, 4 to 5 to 6 months a year on the ocean without coming home, dedicated to getting to the facts. And the facts is we got an extinction event. This is not up for debate. This is an extinction event. The species to your left now are permanently exterminated. That's the end of it. They didn't come back, which meant we killed the essence of the ocean, because the ocean was a soup of life. And so a glass of water would have 1 billion creatures, and 75 to 100 million of them were the phytoplankton, the basis of the food chain, the oxygen chain, the carbon sequestering chain. And so we've done the research expeditions, the species didn't recover. So when the species don't recover, the whales are shown up emaciated all over, like severe, unprecedented, never seen before types of emaciation. Let me get back to where I left off here. My apologies. So I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned that the future generation now are compromised because of the perpetual radioactive fallout from Japan's single site. Imagine what the whole planet is doing. All nuclear reactors are hemorrhaging radiation 24 hours a day. From the fuel pools, there's no containment. This was yesterday's thumbnail. So 88,000 pound bronze whale at the top, now 1,800 pounds. Severely emaciation. Sperm whale should be 15 to 45 tons. That maybe weighs, and they even describe it as severely emaciated. That maybe weighed probably 5 tons. And then the blue whale up there was so emaciated, it maybe weighed 15, 20,000 pounds when it should weigh 380,000 pounds. The gray whales, all of them will be gone by next year. They're all emaciated. Last year, when they headed south, now they're headed north and they're still emaciated. There's no food, so they won't make it back. There was no surviving babies made it last year. But this prize whale was a couple of months ago, and it should weigh 88,000 pounds or so. Now, if that had died at sea, it would have sank right away because there's no muscle mass, there's no fat, there's no blubber whatsoever, right? So this is what so nuclear is dumb. And people just don't realize how dumb it really is. How, like that's being pretty polite, calling it super dumb. I can think of a whole lot adjectives that I would like to say. Excuse me. Elon Musk's shocking clean energy war cry: nuclear is super dumb, and solar is the future. No, it is the future. I mean, I just showed you statistics of, or the actual documentations of how much solar we produced in the last couple of years. Nuclear is still going backwards. There is no nuclear renaissance. They're not even trying. They have 100 companies robbing people of their pensions and life savings through stocks with the small modular reactors and the fusion companies. But none of them are breakthrough. Like the breakthrough in fusion was a few years ago. They said they had a net gain, and then there was something like $6 billion in stocks for fusion sold. It was right before, it was right around this time of year, actually, at the Los Alamos National Laboratory. Said they had ignition, right? Just bear with me 1 second. And he said the extra energy on top of energy they put in, the energy that they gained back was the big whoop, what the big excitement was all about. But a couple of days later, when the story, people were running out and buying fusion stocks, like $6 billion worth, in just a couple of days. But it turned out that the gain was equal to a 9-volt battery. So you're talking about 300 million degree Fahrenheit temperatures. So how much water can you boil at 300 million degree Fahrenheit temperatures that you can quantify, saying that you had extra energy back, and that the extra energy was equal to a 9-volt battery? Does anybody? So 9-volt battery is not a very big battery, right? It's like for your remote controlled kind of size battery, right? So there's no way they could have quantified that assertion that way. So then the following year, they said they'd done it again, and that the energy they got this time was more. And so a few days later, those numbers finally come out, and people were running out and buying fusion stocks again. And we're talking about multiple $1 billion worth of stocks sold in a couple of days. No one has a fusion reactor or a small modular reactor. And it turned out it was equal to 6 kettles of water or 2 Mars snack bars or whatever the hell those things are. I got it there. I can drag it up. I'm not going to bother to, but this is not a technology that is coming to its own. This is nonsense. This is absurdness to suggest that boiling 6 or 10 jugs of water, liters of water, extra, like you hit 300 million degree Fahrenheit temperatures, and then the extra energy you got was equal to boiling 10 kettles of water. That's a pretty bad way to boil 10 kettles of water. That's pretty far-fetched. You know what I'm saying, right? Hello, everybody. Another problem with fusion, of course, is that when you're talking about hitting 300 million degree Fahrenheit temperatures, because that's what they're talking about, they're going to control it with the world's biggest magnet. That's an experiment, though. That's not every reactor is going to have the world's biggest. Like, everything they're doing is an experiment. So Elon Musk is 100% correct on that one. Like, we need mobile power. So we also, hydrogen is your solution. It's a clear solution too, and it's showing up in all kinds of applications, including weird stuff like, say, jet skis and motorcycles and generators and stuff like that, which is fantastic. That we're maturing quite quick, and so that's a breakout energy. Not solar, or not solar definitely, not small modular reactors, and not fusion. Like, solar right now is skyrocketing in production and efficiency too. You have to marry that up with storage, but like, everything should be based on geothermal and then solar and wind. So you can have a small geothermal and then solar, for instance, for your homes. Say you live on a street and say you live in a subdivision with 5,000 houses, and you can turn all that into solar power or geothermal power, shallow geothermal power, relatively easy, particularly if you were doing the installation when it's being built. And, it only takes, say, probably 6 or 7 backyards out of the 5,000 yards to store the deep or the geothermal pipes, right? Nuclear is super dumb and solar is the future. So what I noticed with the media was they were focused in on solar, which 100% geothermal and solar and wind are a solution for sure. Geothermal is your base, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no questions asked. And it'll probably run 60, 70, 80 years. It's not going to need $100 million a year of maintenance or anything remotely in that ballpark of, maybe a whole country, but not every site. The solar's so efficient, all you got to do is stop chemtrailing the skies, and you can use a lot more solar, right? Like, we stopped chemtrailing when the American government shut down about 3 months ago. We've had blue sky almost every day. It's the first time we've seen that in decades. That's how it used to be when I was growing up. The industry is so evil, it's natural. Everything seems normal, right? Because they've been evil for so long. But when you stand back and take a look at it, you realize it's a problem. Elon Musk reignites clean energy debate as he dismisses nuclear power. Nuclear power, forget the solar for a second. He dismissed nuclear power. Nuclear fusion, nuclear fission, small modular reactors, etc., etc., etc. And appropriately so. And so he should, about time. He's in a position where he doesn't have to answer to anybody, where he has enough money, he doesn't have to worry about it. He should make a stand for the right thing, because his children are not going to have a future if somebody doesn't make a stand. And that's exactly what we needed. That's exactly what we needed. Elon Musk just went viral again for a huge twist to the ever-growing global debate about the future. Like, nuclear is not clean energy. Nuclear is the dirtiest thing in humans' creation. It's the most resource-intensive industry in human history. My apologies, I'm dry throat here tonight. Like I say, I'm not expecting a full show tonight, but we'll do the best we can here. A bit of a struggle. I don't do what I'm doing for no reason. I'm doing it because it needs to be done. And I'm willing to sacrifice everything to keep this show alive and keep this conversation going. Because there's no one out there doing an educational program, unfortunately, right? And if we had a bunch of people doing it, I think would have to continue to do it. Let me just show you some of the issues with let me quantify why I say nuclear is resource intensive. If I can keep my brain on track for that long. The nuclear industry is just full of goblins on top of that. They're just the most dishonest people you'll ever come across. Every nuclear power plant needs 2 dedicated gas, oil, and coal plants to run it. That's really important. Let me explain that to you, because a lot of people are missing the reality of that statement. So think about a nuclear power plant. It needs each reactor needs 1 million gallons a minute. And so it has 2 dedicated gas, oil, and coal plants, large ones, to produce the energy. So for the average person, when they hear 1 million gallons a minute, that goes in one ear and out the other ear. So think about it's 4,500 tons. And that will typically go in one ear and out the other ear for most people, because you don't understand the enormity of that. So think of 4,500 one-ton pickup trucks passing in front of your house every minute, every 60 seconds. And think about that happening, and they all got 1,000 liters in the backup, and they got to dump that into the reactor every minute. So there's 70 one-ton pickup trucks with 1,000 liters each in the backup going past your house every second, 70. And that got to be dumped into your reactor every second. So they're talking about a lot of energy to do that. It's equal to 6,450,000 one-ton pickup trucks a minute. So it's a row of traffic, one-ton pickup trucks with 1,000 liters each wrapped around your entire planet more than once, a little bit over one time. Has to go through and be thrown into the reactor so it can boil water to produce power for 1 million homes and businesses in 24 hours. So you need 6,450,000 one-ton pickup trucks each day, has to go through to one building. So they need 2 gas and oil and coal plants to power those pumps, because the reactors can't run on their own energy. Does that make sense? Okay, that's just to run the reactor. That's just to pump the water in the reactor. That's not running the reactor. That's not running the site, the nuclear site. That's not. Now, another thing what the nuclear industry likes to say is your carbon. So the nuclear industry the United Nations is used in 4 papers. The first paper was global warming. That was by Wallace Brocker. Another paper was by Miles Allen. That was net zero. And they both got cushy jobs at universities in the United Kingdom as professors. Another paper was James Hansen, climate change, and another campaign by BP Oil, which contaminated Alaska. One of their derelict ships sunk, was carbon footprint. And so those 4 papers have been used by United Nations to bludge humanity with. So when it comes to your carbon footprint, 15 of the biggest container ships on the planet produce more pollution than all the cars on the planet combined, the 750 million cars, because they're using bunker fuel on top of that, which is very inefficient. And so you're extra pollution on top of that. But the world's 15 biggest ships create more pollution than all the cars on the planet. Elon Musk reignites clean energy. He dismisses nuclear power and champions solar. With a savage critique of nuclear power. So nuclear power is just making the fuel is so resource intensive. Let me get back to that for you. Oh, it's right there. My apologies. There we go. Let me see. You got so much you can't keep up with everything. You can't cover everything, rather. The biggest construction project on the entire planet is Hinkley Point. This is a nuclear site. This is half the site. Can you imagine how much electricity it takes just to run all these cranes and that whole site for that whole 9,000 people are working there? The same energy can be produced right away by geothermal. They're going to spend $48 billion. If you spend that on geothermal, you'll have triple the energy. And this place is surrounded by farms as far as you can see on top of that. But there's just one more I wanted to show you before So nuclear, of course, they've been dumping it in the ocean, dumping in your lakes, your rivers, your streams, your estuaries for 80 years. They've had the Fukushima event, which was catastrophic, of course. And until we're honest, this carnage will continue, right? There we go. It's just such a strange story whenever we talk about nuclear, you're always left with this bizarre reality of nuclear. And I'll explain that right here as soon as I can find appropriate depiction. Well, there's lots of them, but there's one in mind that I want to use. And here we go. We're back. The whole story is nuclear really shouldn't exist, right? It only exists because of our betrayal from our universities and our medias that have all been captured by the industry. So the fuel cycle, just to make fuel. So you see these uranium mines, that's not water, that's a tailing pond full of chemicals. That's allowed to evaporate into the environment because the nuclear industry has no checks and balances. There really isn't any checks and balances. That'll contaminate all the water for all over your country. Each one of these sites will. So when you're trying to make the fuel, the whole fuel enrichment process is so absurd, right? The nuclear fuel cycle, just producing it, once you use it for a short while, you have to split atoms to boil water. So it takes an absurd amount of atoms to boil a glass of water. When you take that fuel out and put it in the fuel pool, there's no containment anymore. Those atoms are not boiling water for energy. They're boiling water because they're still splitting atoms. And so each fuel pool is 1,000 worldwide, are hemorrhaging atoms directly into the environment. And every nuclear power plant, except for a very few, are surrounded by farms, as far as you can see. Just let me give you some examples of that. I think that's such an important facet to the story that gets lost on most people. There we go. Like, the story is absurd, actually. In so many ways, people can't really comprehend it, I don't think. I'll help you here now. Just give me 1 second. I'll pick out the short version. I shouldn't. I should always use the long or complicated version, but... Let's hope I got them. Let's do this instead, because this is giving me a hard time. Here we go. We'll just let this load up. This is unbelievably important to understand why nuclear is stupid and dumb. Come all the way back up. Just think about these studies for 1 second. And there's millions of these studies showing how radiation sucks up, how food sucks up radiation. Strawberries, plants, everything bioaccumulates radiation. Tomatoes, potatoes, and fruit trees, everything sucks up radiation. Then the question is, why is every nuclear power plant surrounded by farms, as far as you can see? Why is that's a weapons production site, fuel production site? Why is every nuclear power plant, except for a few, surrounded by farms? That is probably the most important question in human history. So if you look at Windscale, now known as Sellafield, there's 1,000 buildings over in that gray area there. They it's a reprocessing site, and they also reclaim the plutonium from missiles and nuclear weapons. So when you look at it from a satellite, this is your typical nuclear plant, surrounded by farms as far as you can see. They can't contain the emissions. Okay. So plutonium, of course, is a major byproduct, and so is curium. And curium isotopes are the major byproduct. Forget about the alpha, they're the major byproducts. Not cesium, not iodines, but curium isotopes. And curium isotopes need lead shielding 20 times thicker than you do for plutonium. And plutonium, this was 144 Beagle Dogs. This was the American government's U.S. Navy, Loveless Respiratory Research Institute in New Mexico. The plutonium, just an inhalation now, right? Just because Beagle dogs and Beagle puppies got the big noses. And so, and they won't bite the scientists typically, right? So they use them because they're very docile animals. Tumors of the lungs, the skeleton, the liver occur beginning 3 years. Bone tumors in 93 dogs are the most common cause of death. Lung tumors in 46 dogs were the second most common cause of death. Liver tumors in 20 dogs were the cause of death in only 2 dogs. So typically the animals have 3 tumors. Most of the animals will die, and humans will die of skeletal bone tumors, which is a brutal way to go out. And my apologies to anybody who lost their loved ones that way. But they'll typically end up with 3 tumors from just plutonium. If you live long enough, you will have all 3 tumors. And then curium isotopes are the major byproduct of the radioactive fuel rod. That's the U.S. Navy Research Institute, Loveless Respiratory Research Institute, New Mexico. They're the authorities. And all their experiments on the dogs had the same attributes. They all died. Every one of them. And so then why are nuclear power plants surrounded by farms when they can't contain the fuel pool emissions? These are genocide machines, so it's even worse than what Elon Musk is saying, unfortunately, right? It's bad enough. It's bad enough what it's doing. But it's not an accident that every nuclear power plant is surrounded by farms when they actually know that that's the stupidest thing you do, because you have the studies showing that the food will suck up the radiation. So then what's the point of surrounding your nuclear power plants with farms if the food has a incredible pedigree of knowledge knowing that that's what's going to happen? The food is going to suck up the radiation. So why would you put nuclear power plants in prime farmland worldwide? Is this an agenda to poison you? Yep, you bet it. Elon Musk can't come out and tell you that, see? He's under... But he is warning you when he tells you nuclear is dumb. There's much more to that equation. And that's why they thumbed the shit down on my video before my show started. There was an absolute assault on my videos before the show even started tonight. Is Elon Musk nuclear super dumb? Is he right in saying that? I'd have to say he is. Nuclear is super dumb. That is right. That's 100% right. And it's super dangerous. Irreversible heart damage for children with 50 atoms a kilogram of cesium-137. Well, if it's true for cesium, it's true for hundreds of other isotopes too, particularly plutonium, particularly curium isotopes, for instance, right? And we got absolutely destroyed by radioactive fallout. But we also got destroyed by the fuel cycle. All nuclear power plants are splitting atoms into the environment, and they've been dumping it into your ocean non-stop ever since. Musk took to social media to mock the relentless pursuit of nuclear fusion reactors and small modular reactors on Earth is super dumb. He dismissed Earth-based fusion reactors as expensive and practical projects, saying it was super dumb to make tiny fusion reactors and small modular reactors on Earth. He went further, saying that even if you burn 4 Jupiters pointing out the massive planets to make mostly of hydrogen and helium, it couldn't compare to the total power output of the sun. Stop wasting money on puny little reactors. So he's not talking about just fusion, he's talking about small modular reactors too. Yeah, we got crushed in the poll at the beginning of the show tonight. That was extraordinary, unusual. We got pummeled tonight for sure. And tonight is not my best night. I'm burnt out. I was really happy though I got a little stream put in. But I'll rejuvenate tomorrow. And that's Fukushima Reactor 4. Officially, that never happened. That never happened officially. Nuclear is super dumb. Super deadly. It now has destroyed the future of humanity and the 8 million species. Japan, in particular, pulse event of, it's around 36 reactor cores melted in Japan in 8 fuel pools at the top of 4 buildings. Reactor 1, Reactor 2, 3, 4, and there is speculation about the common span fuel pool lost its inventories in Reactor 6. But like officially, they won't even acknowledge that happened. So you can't really expect them to acknowledge whether Reactor 6 or the common spent fuel pool, which is right behind this building, was Reactor 4 right across the street on the same street. And it was a lower building. It wasn't a tall building. These are all, now we're seeing emaciated whales. They're so emaciated that they'll be gone in a couple of years, all of them, for sure now. Lorraine Moret, back when she was young, had done this lecture on depleted uranium, which is highly radioactive material. And they call it depleted because you can't use it in a reactor anymore, but that doesn't mean it's harmless. I'm just going to play that 2-minute video where she talks about the DU, or it used to be called DOLRAM, depleted uranium low-level radioactive material, for weapons, was supposed to be used just on hardened bunkers and special tanks that had a special material so they can stop the tank, right? But what we've been doing is the A-10 Warthog only shoots depleted uranium munitions, and each one of those munitions have the attributes, meets the qualification of a dirty bomb. And so this is quite a long while ago, so the statistics back then, we need to add on millions of extra.
Estimates of depleted uranium weapons used in 1991 now range from the Pentagon's admitted 325 tons, and that's only bullets, to other scientific bodies who put the figure as high as 900 tons. A Warthog shoots 1.5 tons of bullets in 1 minute. In the 2003 Gulf War, estimates of 2,200 tons have been given. One of the Japanese physicists who came to our Hamburg conference calculated that 800 tons of depleted uranium, if it's released into the air, is the atomicity equivalent, or the equivalent number of radioactive atoms, as 41,000 Nagasaki bombs. We have released over 250,000 Nagasaki bombs, equivalent radiation, into our atmosphere. But what's even more alarming is that the McAllister bomb factory in Oklahoma, McAllister, Oklahoma, was applying for relicensing at the NRC in order to be able to continue manufacturing DU weapons. And in order to maintain level 1 status, which they have to do to get relicensed, they must be able to ship 1,600 tons of depleted uranium weapons a day. That's 166,000 Nagasaki bombs of radiation. It's 20 train car loads of DU going out of that factory every day. It's only one of 4 U.S. Army bomb factories. And altogether, at all 4 bomb factories at any one time, they are allowed by the NRC to have up to 44,000 tons of DU on site. That's 4.5 million Nagasaki bombs.
That's 4.5 million Nagasaki bombs. Dirty bombs. So what has the British released? I know they've given Ukraine an awful amount. What has Russia released? And they use them in practice for some reason. It's nuclear is just a it's just evil what they've done to our planet, and they're continuing to get away with it. They're continuing to do it. And so the fact that Elon Musk even just done a blurb, the industry worldwide lost their minds because they can't handle any kind of reality, right? The reality, here's what they done for Fukushima. I'm going to play this little video. It's really short. These are medias pretending they're at the top of to your left. And the picture will get better in a second, or the video will.
I'm standing is on top of what used to be reactor building number 4. The whole of this building was blown apart by a huge explosion.
We are here inside Reactor 4 at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant that was severely crippled during the earthquake and tsunami of 2011.
Of the decommissioning work taking place here in Reactor 4.
At the end of our tour, we were checked for radiation exposure. In 4 hours, I received the equivalent of less than a chest x-ray.
1,500 highly radioactive fuel rods inside this pool. They've got to move them outside of this reactor.
So this is some weird mental illness where they're claiming they're on top of a building that doesn't even exist in order to protect the nuclear industry. So imagine how much hate they have for Elon Musk right now. See, the media, they're terrified that you're going to know this. Because why would you ever trust? CBS is the biggest in North America. BBC is the biggest in Europe. ABC is the biggest in Australia. And CNN has a global reach. It's free to all the nursing homes and all the prisons and all the... It's a curse on humanity. And because of Fukushima, now we broke the food chain. Horrifically broken the food chain. These emaciated animals these are the biggest animals in the world, and they're showing up at 1/10 of their body weights. We had no concept this could happen, that whales could live this long, being that emaciated, right? And we're talking pulse event after Fukushima, 36 reactor cores at the top of 4 buildings, right? Like, officially, Reactor 4 looks like this. It doesn't look like that. But officially, that's the official picture, and this is the official picture. It can't look like that. You can't be on top of a nuclear meltdown. It just doesn't work that way. And so I'm hoping Elon Musk has realized what's really going on and understood that his platform had a huge reach, and a simple little blurb would start a conversation that could ultimately be a mortal wound for the nuclear industry. I'm truly hoping that's the catalyst behind it. Whatever it is, it's a benefit. And we don't really get anybody making any noise, right, denigrating the nuclear industry. It's considered a fatal move for a career. And you can see the censorship on me. You can be sure that's not an accident. That's it for me tonight. That's what I got for you tonight. I know it's not a big show tonight. My apologies. Is Elon Musk's nuclear super dumb, right? We got 63 votes on it, 63% of the votes, rather. We got spam. Somebody came in and spammed us with a whole bunch of ghost accounts before the show even started. And you folks stood tall. Bless your hearts. You guys are awesome. You made an egregious wrong right again. That is makes me all warm and fuzzy inside. It really does. James put out JMOC's cognitive reconciliation. And so recently, I've done a whole show on it. of the current prime minister in Japan. They get a new one every year, like France. And the current prime minister in Japan has to go and to Fukushima and pretend that everything is hunky-dory and that nuclear is the golden child, so to speak, right? And James took that personal, so that's great news. We get a video out of it. And you can find James Lucid on YouTube. He's almost up to 500 videos. The song we started off with tonight on the first of the video, that was his song. And we're going to play this new one. This is about a visual too. And so it's a fun little video that shows you how much control the nuclear industry has over your politicians and how they're hired for the nuclear industry. We'll see everybody tomorrow night. Hugs for everybody. We'll see you on the next show. Take care.
Nuclear's coming back. The Prime Minister.
I'm going to start that again. I'm sorry.
One, explaining the side, pointing things out, saying we've all learned a better way.
Everything gets handled.
Nuclear's coming back. The Prime Minister at Fukushima Unit 1, explaining the side, pointing things out, saying we've all learned a better way.
Everything gets handled later on. Everything gets managed when it can. We'll decommission when the time arrives, but for now it's nuclear fast track for Japan. They say there'll be more waste ahead and proliferation comes to mind. That concern no longer applies under how it's now defined. Recycle waste, reduce the risk, ground's already been set aside. Up north, far from oversight, and for construction from a Cold War design. JJJ Mox, JJJ Mox fuel. All set now, here it goes. Recycling spent fuel, everyone will know. J-Mox factory built to handle what is recycled and stored, upcycled. In the policy address, reconstruction first, fast deployments promised as a need, advanced reactors, fusion still to come. Reconstruction is the word for what won't come back. JJJ Mox, JJJ Mox, JJJ Mox. All set now, here it goes. Recycling spent fuel, everyone will know. J-Mox factory built to handle what is recycled and stored, upcycled. It's essential, they say, it's optional now. It's the future again, it's already old. It's needed for strength, fuel reprocessing as a key.